Hello viewers, this is Attorney Naresh Gehi, and today we're going to talk about student visas. We've gotten a lot of calls from viewers like you, as well as we've also received a lot of emails, especially in connection with student visas. So therefore we thought that it would be fantastic if we could talk about student visas today. So today's topic is the F1 visa program under the immigration laws of the United States. Sandeep Nair from my office will be joining us to have this interactive session on the student visa program. Welcome, Sandeep, and it's always a pleasure being with you. And I'm sure you've been telling me to talk about this category a lot. All the students have been bothering you, asking you to talk about this F1B visa program. Why is it so important for us to discuss this F1 visa program?
We have a lot of people in the United States as students, so it's very important all these questions get answered for them.
Okay, so Sandeep, let's basically first talk about the basics of this program, and let me give our viewers a very simple overview of the F1B visa program, and after that we are going to get into the questions and answers which people have asked you to kind of question Mr. Gay. I know that you're trying to put me on the spot, so let me basically kind of get a smooth start, and after that I don't mind being on the spot. So I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of questions to ask me, but before that I'll give a brief overview to our viewers about the student visa program. There are numerous students who enter the United States on an F1B visa, and a lot of people in foreign countries want to come to the United States on a student visa. So today we are going to discuss firstly how well you should prepare before you meet the consulate, especially when you're applying for a student visa. And the second part of the program will be about students who are already in the United States. Let's take a simple example. You are in a foreign country. For example, at this time you're sitting in Australia and you're watching my program, and you want to come to the United States as a student. What should you do? The very first thing for you to do is to make an application to to a university in the United States, and that particular university should be allowed to enroll foreign students, which means that should be an accredited institution that allows foreign students to come in and study in the United States. Now, what does the university require you to do? The very first thing is what the university wants from you is to ensure the fact that you meet the qualifications of joining that particular program. For example, you want to come to the United States to study computer science. What should you do first? For example, you finished your high school education and you want to come in for your college over here. So what you need to do is first you need to take the basic examinations which are required. For example, you may be required to take TOEFL, you may be required to take SAT, or if you're going for an advanced degree, you may be required to take the GRE, and if you're going for management, you may be required to take the GMAT. So first thing is finish those exams up. So your first step should be to finish all those exams, and after you're done with those exams, then you apply to the university. The university is going to ask you for reference letters, they're going to ask you for a fee, application fee, you send everything to them. Now, finally get a reply from them. The good news is that we want to send you an I-20 because we have selected you as a student. So what happens next? Thereafter, the university is going to send you an I-20 document, which is a visa, which in a sense, it's actually a document that you take to the consulate for a visa. So once you get the I-20, you're going to take that I-20, you're going to take your transcripts, you're going to take your degrees, you're going to take your diplomas, and after that you'll be facing the US consulate in the foreign country. What does the US consulate in the foreign country wants to assure? He intends to assure the fact that you will come back to your home country after you finish your education in the United States. That is a very, very, very important factor. Under Section 214B of the Immigration and Nationality Act, you have to demonstrate a non-immigrant intent. And if you fail to demonstrate a non-immigrant intent, your visa can be denied, which means that you won't be allowed to come to the United States. So remember, this is the first part of the process, which is known as the application, and therefore it's very important for you to seek proper legal advice in these situations, especially when you are approaching a consulate in the foreign country. Now, Sandeep, do you have any questions so far until now?
So I'm going to start with the first questions from our viewers. Who can qualify for the student visa?
A person who can qualify is a person who has enough financial resources, has the basic education to enroll into an institution in the United States, and thirdly, someone who is accepted by a university in the United States. Which means, I mean, if you're coming for school or your basic schooling, you're not allowed for an F1 visa, which means you should be coming for your college education or you should be coming for your postgraduate degrees.
How long can you stay in the U.S. with the F1 student visa?
Now, this is the second part of the test. So what happens is that now let's take this example a little further that I was discussing earlier. Now you went to the consulate, and right now, basically, you got your stamping from the consulate's end. You're very happy, you packed your bags, and you took this wonderful airline and you landed in the United States. The first person that you're going to see is CBP, which is known as Customs and Border Patrol, and they're going to stamp your I-94, give you a document which is known as an I-94. Now, that I-94 document is a very important document, and generally you'll have a mark over there on your I-94 which is known as duration of status, which means you will be in legal status until you are with the program, which means once if you finish the program, then after that, you may either apply for optional practical training, or basically after the OPD is over, you can just be over 60 days beyond the OPD period.
What happens if I don't return to school the next semester when I'm as a student visa holder?
Now let's put it this way, that you got off at the border and you went to school. And after you're in school, you've decided that after a couple of semesters, 1 or 2 semesters, you don't want to proceed with your school. That may not be the best thing for you to do, because no sooner you're going to drop out of the program, and if you're not going to change your status, you can wind up in troubled waters. You will be illegal in the United States, which means you're out of status, and that's not the best thing to do.
Can I change my F1 visa status to another visa status while I'm in the United States?
Yes, you can. So let's take it again, let's step back a bit. So now you entered the United States. You are studying, your program in computer science in this country, and you're about to get your master's. Now, what happens is that during your master's, at this time, you can still qualify for an H1, even without completing the program. Because, for example, the H1B laws are clear that if you have the equivalent of a bachelor's degree, which, for example, you already had, and during that time of your program, if you get an H1B sponsor, you can, of course, drop out from the program. That's not many students know about this particular issue. So I want to clarify that issue. But you should be having the equivalent of a bachelor's degree from the United States. But the right thing what most students do is that they complete the master's, for example. After that, they actually go with the OPT, which is known as the optional practical training. And when you continue for your optional practical training, the government gives you 12 months. Now, during that 12-month period, you can work for any employer in the United States. So that is absolutely fantastic for you to get the training that you need in that particular field. And after you finish your OPT, which is known as the optional practical training, you also have a 60-day grace period. Now, this is excellent. Even if you look at H-1B visas, they don't give you any grace period. People get confused about the 10-day period in the H-1B program. But the answer is that this is a fantastic program wherein you get a 60-day grace period. Now, during the 60 days, there are a lot of things that you can do after the OPT expires.
For all your legal matters, including immigration, bankruptcy and credit card problems, divorce and family law, landlord and tenant matters, criminal and personal injury, call Gahey & Associates for a free initial personal consultation at 718-263-5999.
जब कोई बात बिगड़ जाए, जब कोई मुश्किल आ जाए, तब हम आपका साथ देंगे. Anytime you have a complex immigration matter, remember, मैं हूं ना.
Well, now, if I'm coming to this country in F1 visa status, can I bring I'm married, my wife and my children?
Yes, if you get an F1B visa, after that you can get your wife and children under the age of 21 to join you and accompany you in the United States.
How long can they stay in the United States for?
This status is valid until you maintain your status in this country. Now, I'm going to spell this out a little further. Now, what happens when you actually came to the United States and you came on a student visa, and unfortunately you lost your status? Can you get yourself back on status? The answer is yes. You may be able to get yourself back on status by applying for reinstatement of status. For example, recently we had a client from the UK who came in and said, Mr. Gehi, the problem which I have here is that I couldn't attend school after I finished my 3 semesters. I really felt sick. And after that, I mean, he had a break of around 1 or 2 months from and what did we do? We applied for his reinstatement. And when you actually have compelling reasons of not attending school, you can get back to your student visa status. So this is very important. Please do not think that once, if you're out of status, you won't be able to get back to status. It is difficult, but if you have the right legal guidance, you may be able to get back to status.
Is my F1 student status subscribed to one school, or can I change schools on my visa status?
You can change schools if you want during that time, especially when exactly if you're not happy with the school. You have the right to change your school. Of course, the student advisor should be transferring your student visa to that particular institution, and that shouldn't be a problem.
So
now, yes.
I don't have to reapply for the F1 to go to a different school.
You don't have to do it. You have to let the student advisor know that he can switch the I-20 over, and there's a procedure which has to be followed by the school. And once if they follow that, you can still be okay. For example, you came into a particular institution and you're a very brilliant man, and you thought that you're not getting that quality of education here. But now if you want to move on to an Ivy League over here, and if you want to go to this Ivy League, they accepted you, and then they will help you to transfer your status to that particular institution. So that is very much acceptable under immigration laws. Now, there's a very important issue which I need to bring up, especially with students, and this applies to a lot of students in the United States. Some students come in with the intent of just getting a master's degree. Some of them finish their PhDs in the United States. Some of them go for postdoctoral studies. So we're going to just talk a little bit about what are the benefits of being on a student visa. The benefits are that you can have your wife come with you, you can have your children under the age of 21, you can be on an F1 visa, and you can change your status. And what do most people do? They change their status to an F1 visa in this country, to an H1 visa, to an H1B. The good news is that because once you fall on an H1B, generally you have a settled job, you get a good paycheck, and after that, what happens is that the employer can also sponsor you for the green card. So those are the best things that the F1 visa allows students in this country.
What does duration of status mean?
Duration of status means it's a notification which is written on your I-94 document. I-94 is the white document which is attached to your passport when you enter the border. Now, this means that you can stay not until the visa. For example, the visa page on your passport may say that your visa is valid until 2018. That does not mean that you can stay until 2018. You can only stay until D/S, which means once your program is over, you have to either leave the country or you have to change your status to another category. So that is very important for us to know.
So to clear things up with the OPT, as an F1 student, I can't work as an F1 student. I have to wait until I get an OPT to start working.
That's not really true. As an F1 student, you can work on campus for 20 hours.
I see.
That is fantastic, which means while you're over here, you may be eligible to work on campus for 20 hours. And especially after that, I mean, later on, once you get your OPT, you can work anywhere in the United States with an employer from that particular field for a period of 12 months. So that is excellent, I would say.
Let's say I'm working for a company on OPT, but they don't want to sponsor me afterwards for an H-1B. What do I do?
Then you have some other options. Either you can go back to school, get married to an American citizen, or try to self-sponsor yourself for a green card if you're very, very bright. For example, you had a PhD from this country and you have around 15 or 20 publications to your credit, well, then you can consider self-sponsoring yourself. That's one way. Get married to an American citizen, or look for another company that can sponsor you for an H-1B visa.
Okay, so we're all aware of the coming H-1B program. Do you have any advice for our viewers in regards to that?
Yes, students should be planning the H-1. If they want to live in the United States, then they need to start getting the resumes in order. Remember, a good resume is a must, And a good lawyer is a must, because what happens is that students get very confused, especially, I mean, they have this employer who's ready to sponsor them, and the student has their necessary credentials at this point of time. But that's the time they need to retain a lawyer, so that they are properly guided through the entire process, because it's not an easy process switching from a student visa to an H-1B visa, because sometimes in the interim what happens is that students wind up losing their status because of misguidance, or sometimes the lawyers, some of them are not that experienced in H-1B visas, so the chances of denial can be high in those cases. Especially you're looking at this, for example, as everyone knows, that in the month of April, students will be applying for their H-1B visa. That's the time when the new quota opens up. So it's very important for them at this stage to consult with a very good lawyer who can guide them through the entire process, so that they do not wind up in troubled waters, and they can happily navigate through the complexities of transferring from a student visa to an H-1B visa.
Does my degree matter when I'm trying to transfer from F1 to H-1B?
Yes, this does matter a lot, because you need to have an equivalent of a bachelor's degree from the United States. If you're shy of a bachelor's, then a 3 years of experience in the profession can be substituted towards 1 year of your degree. So it's those things get a little complex, and I would say that it's best for students who have employers to consider hiring an attorney who can handle such issues, because these are known as complexities in the world of immigration law. And I believe this is very important to students. Remember, it's always, if you want to get on an H-1B program, plan yourself carefully. Have a wonderful resume ready with you. Have your degrees, diploma, resume, and work experience letters ready with you. After that, look for an employer who actually is looking for someone. Means we need to show that the employer is in need of your services. That is very important. So therefore, be a really good student, have a fantastic GPA, and be an asset to the company that you're going to apply for. Because remember, it's not very easy to get an H-1 these days. And if you have good credentials, that's 50% of the battle is won right there. The other 50% is, of course, to see that you're a good employer who's ready to work with you. And after that, once you've got an H-1, that'll be fantastic for you. And I wish you all good luck. And this is Attorney Gehi, and I'm with Sandeep Nair, a manager from my office. And we'll be back with some more interesting sessions from the world of law. Keep watching this program, brought to you by Gehi & Associates, attorneys and counselors at law.